We don't play the social game. We are social. Power 98.5. You're listening to Power 98.5, powered by United Angels Dream, your number one resource for public relations, entertainment, and multimedia. Contact them today at unitedangelsdream.com.
Prepare yourself.
Okay, let's go.
Hi, this is Dan Aykroyd. He's progressive. He's beautiful. He's thoughtful. He's intelligent. He's powerful. He's positive. He is Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5 Satellite Radio.
Oh, yeah. Boy, oh, boy. Yeah. Let me tell you something. The messages, the emails. Listen, I'm about ready to jump out of my skin because the support live on air with Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5. I have my friend, Robert Grigore, and he's here with us today. If anyone has any questions, send them over to me. I will be interviewing him again very, very soon. This isn't going to be the first or the last time I'm going to be interviewing Robert. But this is what's very interesting. Some people have been asking the Celebrity Saviour. And you know what? All good remarks. And what's very interesting is Danette and Robert, I know you shared this with me, and Danette, please forgive me if I pronunciate or mispronunciate your last name. Kabunda, Danette Kabunda, she's a 2-time Emmy Award-winning television producer. She did Christina's Court from 2009 to 2010. She was Oprah Winfrey's former producer, and she's been featured all over the place. Yeah, I mean, come on. She dubbed him the Celebrity Saviour. And we're going to get into why she dubbed him that. And she's not the only one. There's been many others. So we're going to get down. We're going to get into it. We're going to be having real talk, real time with the Celebrity Saviour, Robert Grigore. Good morning. How are you, Robert?
Good morning, Stephen. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Really grateful to be here.
Seriously, the response, the interest, especially from that wonderful creative promo that you made with my photo. Absolutely love it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is like going to be so awesome. I'm going to be sharing and using this as well. So thank you, Robert, for the promo. And thank you for everything that you're doing. I also want to let everyone know that I have worked with Robert, and the results, I'm going to tell you, sometimes you need just a little bit. Sometimes you need a lot. What Robert has done is he gifted to me a very safe space to express myself, to feel very comfortable, and let me highlight safe in capital letters here, safe to express, to know that there isn't any judgment. And as someone who worked as a grief counselor myself, it was very, very, I'm looking for the words to understand, to be someone that understands Robert's industry. It's not so easy, at least for me, to go into what may seem or feel like a counseling session or a therapy session. However, it worked. And it's been a very, very long time before I was able to sit down with anyone in a way that I was able to with Robert, and having to go to Canada. We all know where travel is at right now, but it's definitely worth the trip. But to work with someone who is very, very well established across the board internationally to work with people who are struggling with anxiety, emotional suffering, relationship problems, addiction, depression, trauma. For me, you guys saw my Irish store videos, helping with, restoration of hair. It was stress. It was things I didn't face in the past. It was things that I ran from, to be quite honest. Not that I was ashamed of who I was, where I came from. I loved my biological family very, very much. I loved also the idea of what I wished my family could have been before I was adopted. Yet I did find that there were things of my past that I did not want to be associated with. Things of, to be very transparent, and it's nothing I would normally share, but my half biological brother and sister, my sister, I know nothing about her. My mother gave her up for adoption to my aunt when she was a baby. I remember we were in Belvedere, New Jersey, and my mother had, I'm trying to look for not the right thing to say, but in a way to say it in all honesty. My mother did not want a second child or another child, third child, I'm sorry, because my sister's the youngest. And she gave up my sister for a bottle of pills. And I remember sitting in the courthouse and my sister was in the stroller, and my mother was like, you got him? And my aunt was like, yes. She was like, calm down. And she's like, my mother was a stone cold addict. And I remember, they went to the bathroom and, my mother got got her pills for my sister. And I had to sit there with my sister, and I don't know where my stepdad went at the time. My brother, I raised him when he was, I was 5 years old at the time. I was taking care of a newborn while my family struggled with, addiction, drug addiction. My mother had a severe heroin addiction at that time as well. She consistently passed out. I had to learn how to feed my brother, dress my brother, 5 years old, change a diaper, how to keep him out of harm's way. Like, you're 5 years old. You don't want to be and shouldn't have to be taking care of a newborn. And, unfortunately, he fell into the same pattern and as our mother and some of the other family members, and he couldn't keep his ass out of jail by the time he was 14 years old. And these are all things I didn't want to be associated with. These were behaviors and situations that I thought that I would be judged for and looked at as, someone that may not have worth, because I believed that they were going to be a reflection or tarnish who I was, even though I was adopted and raised by a wonderful family. And these are all things that Robert is aware of. It was very difficult, very, very difficult. And so with that, Robert, I'm going to let you take the mic and, share with us what's going on in your life, to explain to us more of what the Celebrity Saviour means, how you have adopted that, how you can share that with people, to understand why and how you were recognized in such a way. And we're going to go even further in what you're doing with celebrities and people in the industry, in entertainment and across the board. You've got a lot of connections, a lot of resources of those that are coming to you, very supportive of what you're doing, understand and really look at what you're doing isn't so traditional, but yet it just makes sense, but yet it may be traditional, but people are not familiar with EMDR.
Stephen, can I cry on the air with you?
You can do whatever you want. This is your time, my friend.
I just want to thank you so much for everything that you've just said right now is just incredible. The transparency to share with everyone, and you're talking about the space that we created together in a therapy setting, but you're doing it right now with me, a safe space and a trust. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So you asked about the Celebrity Saviour and what that means, and really where that's from. And from my count, I've counted 150 celebrity suicides in the last decade. And to me, I look at celebrities as our role models. These are real leaders. And I've been an artistic kid throughout my childhood, and I struggled with many things as well, different things than you did. But I struggled with shame and anxiety, depression, addiction from a very early age. And I used to sit in front of the TV and watch movie after movie after movie with the greats like Robin Williams, who brought me through so many difficult times. Jim Carrey, he's still living, but so many people that I had no idea were actually struggling in their lives when I was a boy, and they created a safe space for me to escape. And then, as they have been going through, the last decade and 2 decades, and hearing about all these wonderful, incredible people that are ending up losing their lives either through their own actions, consciously or unconsciously. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's just been such a necessity for me to want to help. It just sort of happened by accident that I started working with celebrities. They ended up in my office, and there's a funny story about a media celebrity. I can't share the name, but confidentiality for me is really important, as you can imagine. But she came in and she asked me, I'll call her Sandra for the interview. And Sandra says, "Hey, Robert, can you help me work through my addiction? I can't get on the air without doing a shot. And I got to take these pills." And I said, "Well, of course, sure. Let's do it." At the time, I had become a little bit well known for EMDR. We'll get into that in a minute. And here in Vancouver, and so I was the person to go to. So she came to me, and I did the same standard interview, the very first session, like I would with anybody. And she comes in and she sits down, and we do the pleasantries, and then 3/4 of the way into the session, she gets up and she says, "Robert, I don't think you can help me anymore." And she walks out. And I'm like, really? that happened in real life? I can't believe that just happened. So obviously fell flat on my face with that one. And I thought, wow, I need to find a way how to help people way faster, because this being it could be a 6-month, 8-month process. I need to do this ASAP, because people that are high profile, that have high intensity needs, they don't have 6 months, 8 months, 2 years to spend in therapy. And that's a long process. So the way that I work now is really quick, and we're talking a weekend, sometimes even less than that, to pull people through and to break them through into their true authentic self. So I always thank that particular celebrity for lighting a fire under me so that I could actually do what I'm doing now. But it's certainly something that I've wanted to do, to be able to help. These are people that, and celebrities, when I say celebrities, it's not just artists or musicians. I'm thinking, entrepreneurs, athletes, CEOs. These are all people that are high profile, that are high performers. And, oftentimes, even though they have access to what seems like unlimited resources, it's, you still hear them struggle, and then you still see them showing up in the news, just drawing their who knows, reputations, or you just see some things that really hurt, and to read about. So I wanted to do my part to help them.
What do you believe, Robert, is the most, let me rephrase, because I know where I'm going with this. Across the board is what you've shared. Is there, even when it came to working with me, is there a root underlying emotion, behavior, mindset, thought? Is there something that everyone shares that you commonly see even before you work with them? Is there something that you sense, you understand when the questionnaires are filled out? Is there something that everyone shares before working with you that helps you to understand exactly where the trajectory of this session, the experience, they're building the relationship with your clients is going to go?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I would say that there isn't exactly one, but there's a few particular core beliefs. So if we can boil everything down, all the stress that someone's experiencing right now in their lives is because of a root cause of traumatic experiences or negative experiences even, that put together created a particular storyline, a narrative in that person's mind about themselves. And although nobody's the same, everybody's unique, we as human beings share some commonalities. We all want to be worthy of love. We all want to know that we matter. We all want to be able to be validated, seen, and heard. We all want to be able to feel positively about ourselves, to contribute to the world in some positive way. And if you really look at it, the core feeling that causes so much distress in the world is fear. Period. Full stop. It's fear. And what the fear is about is something like, well, I'm afraid that I don't matter. I'm afraid that I'll fail. I'm afraid that I will not be worthy of love. I'm afraid that I'm going to be seen as an imposter. I'm afraid that I'm going to burn it all down once I become successful, rich, and famous, or whatever. And so you have these belief systems that are causing so much havoc. And by asking the right questions during the interview, I get to determine what exactly is that core negative belief. And that's what I do right off the bat with anybody who's interested in working with me, is we're going to find out what that core negative belief is. And sometimes it's as core as the right to live. I don't feel that I deserve life. How can you go and do and be happy in the world and do amazing things if you don't believe that you even have the right to live? So this is about someone's existence. It's on the line. This is why I'm so passionate to help help everybody. But I'm only one person, so I focus on our creative leaders, who I think really have such a massive following of people that follow what their missions, or their values, their opinions, their experiences. And so it's one of the reasons why I do what I do. But yeah, those are the cores. That I need to matter. I need to know that I'm loved. I need to know that I'm free to live. These are some of the core issues that people struggle with.
And that's just across the board that you believe, no matter who someone is, correct? Where background they come from. Yeah.
These are, so EMDR, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing, which is obviously a mouthful. So EMDR has been around for over 30 years, and there's been loads and loads and loads of studies across the world, all over the world, internationally. And regardless of the culture, regardless of the language that's spoken. These are core human desires. And of course, depending on a particular culture, it's going to show up maybe a little bit differently. Like maybe you have to matter within the family name. You have to matter within the family business. But across the board, people want to know that they matter, they're loved, etc. So, yeah, hopefully that answers that question for you.
I believe you would remember this because you do have an exceptional memory. Sometimes. I shared with you that when I was younger, my counselor or therapist had recommended to my parents to do EMDR. And my mother was receptive of it. The reputation or the idea of what EMDR has changed since I was a child, which I'm very surprised by, is how open and receptive, especially since my mother did work in a medical community. She was a nurse. It doesn't seem, as time has gone by and as I've gotten older, that this is really recognized or talked about as much as it should be. I will say to everyone that is tuning in, is listening live on air with Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5 with the Celebrity Saviour. I wanted to say that with passion and zest, Robert Grigore. You really have to be in the mindset of really wanting to heal. And as I had shared with you, Robert, I had pulled myself out of working in the health industry, in the field, because I found with working with the clients that I had, they had the idea that they wanted to be helped and the idea that they wanted to live in peace and to be free of the emotional, mental disease, especially then, as you know, it goes right into causing physical disease. You have to want it. And as a kid or as a child, I understood it. I allowed it to work to a certain point. And then I got to a place to where I chose and made a decision that I either can do it myself or I can do help myself in a different way better. But really, I made the decision that I did not believe and feel comfortable that I wanted to address the problem. And that's why I stopped it. That's why I encouraged my mother to stop the counseling when I was younger, to stop the EMDR treatments when I was younger. The doctor was very, very nice, gave information, and my mom information and techniques that to do at-home treatments. But I didn't keep up with it because I just didn't want to face the shit. And when you came into my life, I was ready. So with that, do you find with the people that you work with and with emphasizing to them the seriousness of the commitment that is needed, that they have to be willing to release the control and to trust and to really search themselves to know and to believe that they are ready to heal?
Wonderful point. Absolutely wonderful point. You've heard that saying that you can only change when you're ready, and that is the truth. You have to be ready for any kind of endeavor to be successful. But the depth of where we go and the way that I work is very, very deep, and for many people it can be very intense. So I know that I spent some time talking about the potential changes that are going to happen for somebody, and these are actually not just the positive changes. Even though your life transforms tremendously, people sometimes are afraid to change because they're afraid of what's going to happen once they do change. And that's actually something that, a lot of therapists, I think, miss. And something that I've made a real point of emphasizing that, when you lose this, let's say, addiction, what's your life going to be like? What are you going to be losing when you change positively? And 9 times out of 10, that is embraced. The family culture is improved, let's say, but the person has to go through this transformation, and so we'll spend some time on what that's actually going to be like. And for the human mind can only go as far as it's ready for. You mentioned you're ready this time to go deeper. And so that's a little, I like to call that safety brake. It's a little caveat that even if you get into a particular type of treatment, whatever it might be, your brain's going to go only as far as it thinks it can handle. And obviously the right therapist has to be as a key element too, because sometimes, somebody could not really know exactly what they're doing and how to handle and keep that space safe. But I believe that when people finally reach me, and unfortunately, sometimes people, I've heard they've spent 20, 30, 40 years struggling with a particular ailment, whatever that may be, and building up. I shouldn't really say unfortunate, because I believe everything happening for a reason for people, and they're building the proper foundation to be ready for this process. So you're absolutely right. Readiness is a huge factor. And sometimes I've got a client that comes in that's been referred by maybe a spouse, and they come in and I think, Robert, I know I have to work on this. I can think of a client, again, I won't share names, but I'll call him John. And he comes in as a CEO of a major corporation, $40, $50 million deals on the table per time, huge money. And he comes in and he wasn't really sold on the process just yet, because his wife wanted him to work on his anger issues. He was blowing up left, right, and center on people that really don't deserve it. Hopping in a cab, and cab turns left instead of right, and he'll scream at the person. And he said, Robert, I don't want to be this angry guy. There's got to be something I can do. And what happens sometimes, the fear of change, the fear of going through this process is a protective element. I know that I can survive right now with this particular ailment, however bad it is, because I know it, I'm used to it. And, at one point in time, that strategy would have been adaptive. Maybe he needed to scream at somebody in order to protect himself, which I actually found it was the case. And so this is the way that the brain falls into these patterns to control one's safety. And eventually it doesn't work anymore. It just starts to fall apart. And that's where he was. So we spent just a couple minutes talking, because a lot of what happens in the EMDR experience is you'll know, isn't a lot of talking, it's a lot of processing. And so we did this particular protocol with him, which is an avoidance protocol that comes from Jim Knight. And we asked the question, which is counterintuitive: how much do you not want to focus on this problem and heal it? And the answer, of course, is 0 to 10, 0 being neutral and 10 being the highest amount of resistance. It was a 10. And so we do something called bilateral stimulation, which is, it looks really weird. It's, we're moving my hand back and forth in front of his face, or if you're online, it's following a ball back and forth. And really, really quickly, within minutes, the resistance, the avoidance gets down to 0. And he says, okay, I'm ready to do this. Let's go. And just like that, we're off to the races.
Emily from New York, she is asking, are there any problems after treatment is done?
That's a good question. Thanks, Emily. So I would answer that by, I'm assuming that by problems you mean side effects. And if that's the case, no, there's no side effects particularly of concern, but I should say this, that when you're going through a processing session, prototypically in the EMDR world, it's about 60 minutes or 90 minutes per session, what I call pay-as-you-go therapy, once a week, every other week, something like that. I do it over the course of a weekend, so mine's quite a bit different. But after a session, the brain is processing at an accelerated rate, way faster than normal, even though that's organic. Nothing's abnormal happening in the brain, but the brain is still processing at a rapid speed because there's no blockages in those particular neural networks. So the person may end up having some physiological symptoms as they bring up new material to be processed in a future session. So that could be stomach aches, nausea, something like that. Headaches are common. And disturbed sleep, nightmares, dreams are possible. And that's because the brain's ready, it feels safe and able now to begin to finally process this latent material that's been sitting there for who knows how long. Now, any good therapist is going to create a safe container for that person to be able to manage going deep, and I'm no different there. I create a container, a complex exercise, and a whole bunch of different exercises depending on what my client needs to be able to manage any types of distress that might come up after a session. So the client is well equipped to be able to handle at least putting that material away until the next session. So in that sense, there are very mild side effects. Sometimes it can be a little bit jarring if something comes up that you weren't expecting, but the client would be braced ahead of time for that. And then the other problems that I would mention, that, as I said a little bit before, not exactly problems, but they could be major changes. If you're waking up and you're used to being this aggressive person, and you no longer feel aggressive or angry anymore, you now have an entirely new way of relating to the world. And that is a challenge that usually it's embraced, but it's a challenge to now have to reorient myself to my world. The way that I work is I prepare my client for that, and we have particular check-ins just to make sure that that's going smoothly, as I found that that's really needed. But hopefully that answers the question for Emily there in New York.
Autumn from Texas, she had wrote, I'm taking anti-anxiety meds. What do you recommend if someone wants a treatment while taking certain medications? And I'm going to say my question would be to add into that is because there's certain medications that are certain Schedule 3, 2, or I don't know if if it's Buspar or something. I think Wellbutrin that they use sometimes as well. So if I can add into that, is there a difference, to add in what Autumn's asking, if someone's doing EMDR, if they are on certain controlled substances or certain substances that aren't considered, like, say, a Schedule 3?
Great question, Autumn, and you, Stephen. And it is one that comes up pretty frequently. So I have to preface what I'm saying now. I am not a medical doctor, so I can't give medical advice. So keep that in mind as well. But what I love having this conversation with potential clients, because many people are prescribed medications, and that's usually the first line of defense when somebody goes to the doctor. They think, I got the stomach ache and I'm anxious, and okay, well, here's some medication. So it just happens that a lot of people are on them. So there are some medications that you will, quote unquote, slow the process down a little bit. And those are anything that ends with pine or PAM. Those are the medications. But you can still do EMDR while on medications. In fact, I've had, many clients that have been on medication when I did it. And what happens is the brain is getting used to that particular culture with the medication linked in the neurological sequences, if I can put it that way. And when EMDR is introduced and the root cause of that anxiety or depression or whatever it is that the person's struggling with is no longer there, we've eliminated the root of the anxiety, guess what? It disappears. So the medication now is not treating what it used to treat. So the person will then feel either the medication's not working as well or the medication has changed. And so this can be where you really want to have hands-on communication with the EMDR therapist and the doctor or a psychiatrist or whoever's prescribing the medication to just be able to titrate coming off of the medication if it's one of those meds that needs to do that. But eventually, when the person's completely off medication, which is a great goal to have sometimes, what happens is we just need to go back and work on the same targets that we worked on before, because when the medication is no longer in the system, the person will generally experience a little return of those symptoms. And that's only because, they were healed. The EMDR happened with the medication in the brain. Now, when I say return of the symptoms, we're not talking an 8, 9, 10 out of 10 in terms of distress. We're talking like 1, 2, 3 at the most. And then we just quickly, sweep it away. We call this just sweeping the dust bunnies because there's just a little something there. And before you know it, you're done. So, go on.
No, go. I just took a breath.
Yeah, okay. I should take one too. So
you're good.
Yeah, so that's a welcomed issue normally to have, but when we get into really, I don't want to use the word dangerous, but when you're talking your bipolars and major depression, when you're experiencing some drastic mood shifts, there is an entire protocol that we use to balance somebody on that medication. So the rule of thumb is don't start EMDR therapy until 3 months after being on your medication so that your body has time to get used to it. And then you can proceed with caution as you go from there. But I've had a lot of people that have been able to just, stop their medication, of course, with doctors involved, because they no longer need it. And one of the examples of this concept is if you've ever been at a party and you've been drinking, and I can say this, right, Stephen? Are there kids listening?
You're fine. You're good.
Okay, great. So if you're at a party and you've had a couple of drinks and you weren't really expecting to stay long, and then you have a couple too many, and I should probably put my keys away. It's not safe to drive. So you give your keys to the host, and the host puts them away in a spot, and you know where it is. That's great. So then you have a conversation. You have a couple glasses of water. Maybe have a bit of a nap, and then pretty soon you're feeling fine. You think, okay, you know what? I'm totally sober now. I'm okay to drive. So then you look for your keys and you can't find them anymore. And then you're like, where are my keys? You're looking everywhere for your keys. So then you decide, well, you know what? I guess I can't go home anyway. I might as well have another drink. So then you have another drink, and now you start to feel intoxicated again. And instantly, bam, you remember where the keys are. That's because the memory was stored during the state of being intoxicated. So medication is the same way, that the memories are stored and processed while under the influence of that particular medication. And so we'll just have to be careful as to how we work for this. So hopefully that's a long-winded answer to your question. Autumn, but it's absolutely possible.
I'm going to read a testimony here. This is from one of your clients. I was experiencing trauma from the loss of my mother, who suffered from a devastating illness, as well as other difficult life events. It had been going on for over 10 years. I was experiencing frequent nightmares, which left me waking up feeling distraught and almost reliving the grief. I thoroughly enjoyed my experience of working with Robert. After failed attempts at traditional talk therapy, I felt a little apprehensive about trying EMDR. However, 1 hour into treatment, and I knew it was the right decision. Robert made me feel at ease and comfortable throughout the entire process of going through difficult life events and reprocessing the memories. When I left Robert's office, I instantly felt as though progress had been made. Since then, I have not experienced any nightmares, and I genuinely believe that I have gained a greater insight and understanding into my inner self. Robert is an expert in his field. I wouldn't hesitate to recommend him to others. Facing our problems is never easy, but Robert simplifies the process of working through trauma. Working with Robert is an investment in your mental health, and that, in my opinion, is 100% worthwhile.
I love hearing those testimonials. It was just, for me, working with my clients is such a gift. It's an honor. And to be able to go to those depths with somebody and work it through, it really doesn't have to be hard. That's the thing that I tell a lot of people is it's not going to feel pretty. Obviously, we're going to be looking at and pulling up some trauma, but it doesn't have to be a horrible, painful experience where you feel like you're still trapped. That's really what a lot of people, I think, feel within their minds and their struggle is they're trapped, and it's a prison that unless you break free of it, of those negative habits and patterns and trauma, it really does feel like a prison. And it's a process that is a lot quicker, especially the way that I'm doing it now. It's you just have to feel it one more time, and then it's gone. And EMDR doesn't erase memories, so I'll put that out there, that you can't simply forget that your childhood happened to you, or forget that say you were attacked or something like that. But you don't have to remember those experiences with that gut-wrenching, knife in the heart kind of a pain. It's just a fact. It just happened. And a lot of people's depth of their consciousness, it can be a spiritual awakening for many people, or a deepening or heightening, depending on how you want to put it. But you'll understand oftentimes that, there was a reason why I went through that trauma, so that now I can do this now with my life. And that's one of the greatest gifts of this entire process for me. So it's I'm glad you shared that. Thanks for doing that.
You're welcome. I'm going to do one more question. So this is Justin from Los Angeles. He wrote, to Stephen's point, you do have to be ready when you're looking for the right help. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I've been told that our mind's chemical changes due to addiction. What would this do for someone like me?
That's a great question. Great question. I will answer this by stating that I believe that beliefs are the most powerful weapon or resource at our disposal. So I'll put it that way. It's a double-edged sword. If somebody believes that they are not going to be able to be helped because of something, well, guess what? That's what's going to happen. But if somebody has experienced addiction and really, I know what addiction's like, to be very blunt. I've struggled with it since I was very young, with video games and TV and sugar. And then I went into pornography when I discovered it, and drugs and alcohol. So I know what it's like to struggle with addiction. And for a lot of people, my perspective on addiction is that you will get what you need out of it. The long answer is that if you've been prescribing or using the belief system that addiction is a disease or an illness, then that is a particular path you'll go down. And what I'm referencing that is the powerlessness element. If you believe that you are powerless to heal an addiction, then that's the first rung of the ladder. We have to work on that, because you can't change anything in your life if you remain powerless. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't climb the ladder if we have no strength. So you have to work on that belief first, that I am powerless. Now, provided you've done that, then you are, it's an easy process to fairly simple. There may be more or less aspects to work on, but addiction is one of the very interesting. It's a little bit different than some of the other issues that we deal with in EMDR, but we actually get addicted to not just the chemical changes and the chemical experience of the substance or even the behavior, of course, talking dopamine and everything else that's happening in the brain, but we actually get addicted to the positive feeling that comes from the behavior. So nobody really wakes up and they're like, today I'm going to be addicted to heroin, or today's a good day to become an alcoholic. Nobody ever does that. It's the addiction to the positive feeling that we become addicted to. So what we have to do with with EMDR is we have to unlink the positive feeling in relation to that particular substance. Now, if somebody's been in recovery for a long time, or even very short, I'll mention, hey, there's a chance that you'll feel urges again to use or go and do the behavior. And we work through that and make sure that's really safe too. But then so once the positive feeling is unlinked, then, and I should say, it's not that you can't feel these positive feelings anymore. It's just you don't need the behavior to feel that. So you can feel joy, you can feel in control by being with your kids or meditating or going for a run instead of using. So that's the first step. And then after that, we go underneath. What is the real cause of the addiction? Why did you get started in the first place? Why did you decide to start shopping every day? Or why did you go gambling? Or why did you start using? And underlying that particular positive feeling that you needed to feel is a negative feeling, a distressing experience, a trauma that was under there, or several traumas that were under there. But it's always a negative belief. Could be something like, I'm out of control, I'm in danger, I'm not safe, I don't deserve love, I'm worthless, I'm a failure. These are all horrible feelings. To have this in your mind, these are painful experiences. And we want to get away from that as soon as possible. So we're all hedonistic people for the most part, that we generally want to move away from pain and move towards pleasure. So once we unlink positive, we go into the trauma. We eliminate the traumatic memories from the person's grips that they're stuck with. And again, they don't forget that something happened to them, or sometimes it's not a clear thing that happened. It could be an abusive, emotionally abusive environment that someone's in, and they can't really put their finger on the trauma. I get that a lot. Robert, I didn't have any traumas in my life, so why am I an addict? I don't understand. And so I'll share, that's not something specific that happened to you. It could be a whole lot of things, like I was bullied for many, many years of my childhood. I was never really beat up, but I was called short, fat with glasses pretty much every day of my childhood. And over time, that becomes my identity. And I started to run with that. That's who I am, just short, fat with glasses. And that was traumatic. of course, I had some other traumas as well, like that. So just that as a side note, but yes, EMDR can be very, very, very effective with EMDR with addictions. And if there's some sort of a chemical requirement, like say methadone or something like that, where you have to take, I recommend, of course, again, consulting your doctor. Make sure that there's some validation for you from the medical industry, if that's the case, to do in conjunction with EMDR. But hopefully that answers the question.
In our last meeting, I remember that I had shared with you that I still felt as though my left brain was just over processing, just too. And I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm just going to add in, intense, like what was going on. So I knew what was happening. And I want to bring you up to date a little bit too, to add in some more information from our last meeting, is that I was aware of where the root came from. However, I was not tapping into the complete memories. And this goes back to what we were discussing before. I also wasn't feeling ready. And I was thinking to myself, all right, why? And so I went back to those memories, and this was just recent, and even came to me today while I was sitting in my kitchen, and I eat breakfast and, or have my coffee and stuff like that, and I just sit there in silence. Sometimes I'll have music on, but I normally sit in silence and just see what happens. So since our last meeting, I realized, as an introvert, I'm sure you remember, I never moved fast enough as a kid. And when you're living with addicts, they are always on the run. And I know you remember this, Robert. I always told you I always had my shoes on. There were times that my mother required me to keep my shoes on in case she needed to go get drugs or go to a bar or whatever was going on. I rarely had my shoes off. And it got to a point to where my family, especially my stepdad, people don't realize when you're a real introvert, a really, really pure form of an introvert. Now, even though we all have introvert and extrovert as part of who we are, because of the environment that I was living in, and these are things I was just processing recently, or going over my memories, is that you shut down when you're growing up and raised in a traumatic environment. So it really digressed me to where I didn't know how to be assertive. I didn't know how to be aggressive. I was too scared to show that strength to my family because I thought it would lead into violent beatings, more neglect. So I allowed myself, and I'm going to share something that I don't believe I did share with you before. I allowed myself to shut down. And, there were times I wasn't allowed to talk. I was hit if I spoke out of turn. I wasn't allowed to ask questions. And what was very interesting is that, and even as I'm processing and sharing this with you now, is the reason why my left side of my brain at times gets overworked is I have this fear and also belief that if I don't move fast enough, if I don't stay active internally, externally, to constantly be in fight or flight, to be aware. When you're a child, you don't think of fight or flight, but to be aware and ready to go, you're constantly in fight or flight. And that's the biggest thing that I'm going to say since our last meeting, is that it's just a program, and especially during this time, and these are decisions that I make, is that my career is not moving fast enough, or my client's career is not moving fast enough. When all that got into order, things were subsiding. Then the pandemic hit, and now things are getting shut down. And that threw me for a big mind fuck loop, because I'm like, instead of things taking its time and processing, now we've got mayors and governors and everything. You can't go anywhere. You don't do anything. And when coming from the background that I came from, where I always had to be ready to go and I did not know any other way of life, then the kick in the ass when I was adopted, my dad was in the military. So I went from one, needing to be on the go, never trusting my environment, never knowing how long I'm going to be living in one place, never knowing how long or how committed I can be in my relationships, because there was always going to be a move. And not only was there always a move, Robert, with my biological family as well, but now I was adopted into a family, and now we are moving all over the place. And I didn't know, should I trust relationships? Should I trust and even bother to build fruitful relationships with friends and peers? And I shut down again. And I became very self-absorbed in a way that I realized, what is the point? I'm going to get hurt over and over and over again. And after leaving my best friend, in New Jersey, and going through that, the trauma of the state taking me out, and then being taken away from the only thing I ever knew when we left the Northeast, I became very angry, very resentful against the military. Not the people of it, but the system of it. My mom did as well. She struggled with depression of it. And I just realized that the reason why it's still with me, and, working in the entertainment industry, you are still traveling all over the place. I had moved 8 times in 6 years. And it wasn't until, and I also being bi-coastal, having a home here on the East Coast, having a home on the West Coast. And I realized, and even as I'm sharing this with you now, and adding to it, is that I did not give myself permission. But more importantly, Robert, I did not trust, and I'm still in that space of, am I going to have to pack up and move again? Where am I going to go? And I've relied on, and I even have it. I've got boxes in my attic, and I saved boxes because just in case if I have to move again or something happens, because I don't want to bother going to a store, especially during a pandemic. How easy is it going to be for me to get moving boxes? Mm-hmm. And so with that, it hasn't clicked. Let me rephrase. It has recently clicked to start allowing myself to believe and to trust and to have faith that whatever God, the universe, or I decide to do, wherever my career brings me, wherever my clients need me, I can choose to allow myself to be very present. It used to annoy me when people say that, because I'm like, what the fuck does it mean to be present? I didn't know how to be present. Who the fuck? We live in a world, in a system where you can't be present. You're not told you've got to be on the go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Social media is another mind fuck that ended up encouraging it. So I started getting rid of boxes. I'm putting them out in recycling. I started staying less off of being online. I got an assistant to help with more work to help balance out by handling the emails or the messages online and things like that. And it helped ease to let go. But that's where I'm at. And I'm going to be honest with you, as I know I want to go into another session with you. And with that stress is done, is it caused I for years, and doctors assumed it was IBS that I have, but it wasn't. I ended up getting, what is that? Oh God, not IBS. You would think I would know. It's, hold on. Where is it that I got? I have it and I forgot it. And you know what? I like that I forgot it because I feel like that's my brain telling me I'm not owned by it anymore. Gastritis. Thank you. So I am, because my brain is like, go, 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 kept me in fight or flight or stress. Now, not bad. I just got done with the endoscopy and colonoscopy, Robert. They're very, very happy of how things turned out. But it's the fact to where until I truly allow myself to trust where I'm at and to know that I'm not going to fear losing my home, giving up my home, all of that, like I had spent my entire life with both of my families. That's when I feel that I will end up trusting again and letting go of that. You got to go, got to be on a move. Make sure you got those boxes. Make sure you keep your shoes on. Make sure. And so when you and I, were to do this again, if it doesn't resolve on its own, we'll see where it goes. But I just want to let you know that that's where it's at. And to go back to what I said before, you have to be ready. And I prayed about it, and I thought and felt that I was ready until, I still like to drink coffee because it gives me, or even if it's decaf, because that taste reminds me and gives me that feeling that I'm productive. I still like to walk around my house sometimes with shoes on because I just feel so excited. The day feels great and I just want to have a place to go. But now because of the pandemic, it's like, where's it to go? So it's like, this was the third catalyst. And when they say things in three, I'm so happy that this is going to be, and I'm looking forward to that. This pandemic is the last transition in helping me to learn to let go, to allow that introvert to not be scared anymore, to feel like I need to shut down because either something or someone, or even if it's myself, needs to be ready to leave.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Stephen, thank you for sharing all of that. And, I would have jumped in with the gastritis, but I don't like to share anything that past client without you saying it first. So, Stephen, you're talking about, there's a lot in there, and I want to comment on as much as I can. I'm so happy to hear that you're going through that process of eliminating boxes and the behavioral component to show yourself that in fact, you're okay, you are in control on your own, you can trust, etc. So what's happening in the brain there is that we all have that until it's healed and processed, we have this negative neurological sequence that's designed to keep us safe. So you learned early on in your life that unless you're moving, you're not safe. Mm-hmm. Unless you're moving, you're not safe. And so having those shoes on were that was you being in control, always ready. And so my mind goes to now, as you're sharing this, that by always wanting to move forward, you're feeling in control. And that's a theme that, many people have. That's one of the main, this is something that the pandemic has changed and put into focus for just about everybody on this planet right now, is the need for self-control, because that's what, everybody's feeling powerless. For many of us are feeling powerless. And there is this threat of death, right? Obviously, pandemic is no joke. And so it's those two elements, powerlessness and the fear of death or illness or something, dangerous happening. That is a traumatic trigger, and instantly it's going to unlock that neurological network that's related to any past traumas that have to do with that particular type of feeling of powerlessness or out of control or in danger, and then highlight that belief system that unless I'm moving, I'm not safe or I'm in danger. And, you at the very early on in your life, you'll see that actually was a positive, if I put quote unquote positive coping strategy that you just weren't ready. You had to be. And, for many people, they have their own type of readiness. It could be hanging out with friends. It could be working late. It could be whatever it might be. And, that's putting it in the forefront now for people to be able to work on it. So there's a positive element to the pandemic, aside from it being, a very serious situation, a global traumatic incident for everybody. But I'm really happy that you're moving in this direction. So what's happening with putting the boxes away, I would guess, here is that you're building that positive neural network that is showing your brain the opposite is true, that I can trust myself, that I can, I'll be okay on my own, I can manage it, and I can begin to trust others. And I think that that's one of, a major theme that, many celebrities have to experience as they go through the path of getting to Hollywood or getting to an A-list level, is you can't do it on your own. You have to trust other people, whether that be a wonderful PR person like yourself or some other type of manager, or it really does take a team to make it. Of course, lightning can strike in a bottle, but eventually you're on the platform, and then you have to trust others. And you hear about the need for control for so many celebrities. They like things a certain particular way. It could be how they're spoken to, who speaks to them, how their breakfast is made even. And that's all about keeping control. Because underneath of that is fear. And, the complete opposite, the bomb, if you will, for the belief system is that I'm okay. Even if I'm not moving, I'm okay. If I'm at present, if I'm at peace, and I'm at rest, I am safe. And that sounds simple, but it's not. If you've experienced trauma, if you've had to move around a lot, and as a child, what you're sharing is, there was the one that was the negative type of how always having to move around. So your brain locked in this positive, this coping strategy, I should say, that moving around was your safety mechanism. And then when you moved and you said your father was in the military, right? So have to constantly move from there. That was a validation from your life that, yep, that belief system is true. So it didn't just lock it in even further. So those are the types of experiences that lots of people will have, not yours exactly, but they will be experiences that validate the negative belief. So it really feels true. Like my negative belief when I was growing up was that I wasn't worthy of love. And amongst others, and when I grew up and into my adolescent and teen years, and I was called short out of classes, that was validation that, not worthy of love, clearly. And then I would ask the girl out on a date, and she'd say, no, not worthy of love. And so then it becomes validation for me. And then, it's a coping strategy was that, I don't need people then. I'll just do it on my own. I don't need them to be in love. Or I went the opposite way and became even more so promiscuous, and so on. So at the basis, our brains are just trying to keep us alive and survive. But you're noticing that as you're going deeper, and life events will happen where we'll be triggered to go deeper. And it's an opportunity, it's a choice. Do I want to fix this now? And sometimes it's the body that shows you, hey, there's a problem here. We have to listen to it. And so yours is the gastritis, and it sounds you probably writ it off as IBS your full life, and you find out something worse. And I've had so many clients that come in with ulcers, or they've had strange lesions or back pain or something like that show up on their body, and that they're feeling within their body. And it's all stress related. Emotions are felt in the body. And so oftentimes it's the body that shows us that there's a problem. Until we become conscious of it, we're at the body's mercy. And then we can, obviously you can go through the medical route and heal the body. And sometimes that works enough to change the mindset. But, the faster route, is, in my opinion, is to go through the mind and do it in a holistic fashion. So then doing some meditation or something like that as well, to show you how safe you are and that you're in control and all of that.
And that's exactly where you hit the points on where the gastritis was coming in and everything, because I wasn't changing the behaviors. I was keeping the boxes. I, was, drinking the, grande, Starbucks coffee. And I do like the taste of coffee, in all honesty.
So good. So good.
And my mom, she used to love coffee ice cream. So I used to hate it, and then I end up loving it. But it really is. It's where I got stuck, where the gastritis came back, because I've had it on and off. Once again, my doctors and stuff never was tested until now. Assumed it was IBS, but it, both can have symptoms in similarity. I didn't have a new program. I didn't have a new way of life, a new way of being. It was always in my belief system. It was always in the environment, and even in my own self-worth. Like I said, if I'm not on the go, I'm not productive. If I'm not on the go and on the move, I'm wasting my time, wasting my day. I'm not being resourceful. I'm not being resourceful for someone else. I'm not being valuable. I'm stuck not being able to show my value. So it's all of those things. And what I'm happy about is to understand the root of the problem. Now it's creating those trusting memories, trusting programs, trusting behavior patterns by doing certain things, no matter how big or small, to just be able to do it and do it in a way like myself. I stopped drinking coffee every single day. Now I'm going to work to drink it not at all if need be, because it doesn't, even the decaf, Robert, doesn't contribute at times, especially if I'm in fight or flight mode. But all of these things, my body is gently and lovingly letting me know that I'm not in homeostasis. I'm not in balance. And with that, I said to my doctor, I'm just really, 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 really happy. With that, my cholesterol went up. I ended up getting it dropped down 22 points. Very happy about that. But, during a pandemic, I was stress eating. So as you know, the cholesterol is supposed to be like 100 or below. I went over 200. Now I'm down to 199. But it is all because not of portions, but I was eating a little bit more than what I normally would. So with that, the best thing that is happening and what I've gotten out of this pandemic is facing the truth of myself and hidden behavior and behavior patterns and mindsets that normally I allowed life to distract me from. And it was very suppressed and very subconscious. But now everything is coming to light. Like, these are changes that need to be made, because these were things that were not supposed to be with me. They ended up because I allowed it, I chose to, and now I'm choosing to reverse the programming.
And, if you think about, what, at least what I think about with us human beings, we started off as in our earliest evolution as nomadic creatures. We're supposed to move around. It's normal for us. And of course, having a home base feels secure. So we're supposed to be able to change. We're supposed to be able to move and adapt and, let go of things that don't work. In fact, our brains are wired for that exact purpose. Memory isn't always solid. Every time you bring something up into your memory, you're slightly changing it. And that's for the purpose of surviving, that you don't need to worry about, tigers in the Arctic because they're not here. Okay, I don't need to worry about that anymore. And then you go, you learn something else. So, you're creating that positive neural network now in your brain that's allowing you to move things away. And I was just so happy to hear that you're moving in this direction. This is wonderful news. And I can't wait to hear more of how it unfolds for you.
Thank you. And to add to that, Robert, Yahoo Finance is having an article that should be getting published this month. My team and representative is working on that right now. They're in final stages of putting it together. What I had written, and to add into what you were sharing, is it's all about allies. And when you think of where we were at hundreds, if not thousands of years ago, and really looking at this is, let's say if it's caveman days, your allies were your tribe. Your allies were who's going to be there to hunt, cook, take care of the children. Building shelter for climate changes, possibly moving to different territory to build, to grow, to have better resources of food, cultivating, water, all of that stuff, safety and security. And as I was thinking of this, recently, and what I really wanted to put into the information for people is we went into being allies, be an ally for ourselves and allies for each other for survival and for thriving in a very, very natural human being way. Now we are in a different way of how we look at allies. Instead of it being community, instead of it being very inclusive, I'm going to read something here is that is going into this article. I'm looking forward to seeing what the final write-up is going to be. But where I'm referencing and its importance is, I'm hired to review and assess and implement strategy of allies and their intentions to own and operate businesses and independently utilizing the layout of these assets that are in a form of trust, influence, leverage, control, territory, intel, and power. And where we are at in today's climate and lifetime is the idea of power and or empowerment to benefit community, to benefit resources, to benefit future generations, and to cultivate emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, geographically, environmental. It's gone and gotten itself into a shithole of being very narcissistic, self-absorbed, and people bitch about millennials and young generation, but remember where they came from. And they're living, I think, in more of a stressful climate and world than our generation. So with that being said, and this is what I've learned from having family members in law enforcement, family members in military. It happens in real estate. When you think of allies, you've got two areas. Let me see here. Do I want to go on? I don't want to spill too much. Every person in business is seeking advancement. People in the entertainment and music industry want to be successful and to be the next biggest star. To simply put, I give objective assessments in all matters that relate to obtaining reliable and suitable business acquisition, understanding its function, its relationship, and how to strongly advance years forward. So what I do is I go into finding out why does a person, and in a different way from you, I've taken also the area of being a counselor, and I've put it into business, and I break down in an opposite area from what you're doing, because you're working in a very personal way, but covering to where it does, Robert, you're helping people personally, but it translates into their relationships, their marriages, their children, their business, all of that. For me, what I'm doing is I'm basically saying, simply understand whether I'm doing it or you're doing it. Here are the tools. This is what human beings are doing in today's age. If you want to know why the government, which is a big hoo-ah and it's been a problem forever and there's no excuse over, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I do want to reference where all the similarity is at, especially with what's happening right now in 2021, is government is using your tax dollars with their allies to build trust, to build, to help with influence, to be able to acquire intel, to leverage that intel to obtain power and control in order to take over territory. Territory can be housing development, property. It can be pharmaceutical. It can be stocks. It can be landscapes. It can be even in the entertainment industry. You know, when you think about companies, it can be in food and beverage. It can be into music and entertainment. It's all about, what does the person want to own? What does the company want to own? And I go in there and I just dissect the psychological aspect is to find out, are they wanting to own and or also be a leader for themselves and their own gratification? Or is this empire, is this business, is this way of thriving or surviving for the collective? And that's the biggest problem, that where I'm coming out and where I'm educating people, is that we really need to look at, and it's very simple to understand someone's intentions. Is it for them or is it for everyone? And you can easily tell when it's for them, because when one community hears it, please, in neon lighting, to everyone who's got common sense and who will hear this show years from now, when it is one way and there is suffering, there is a loss of voice, there is a loss of independence, there's a loss of autonomy, someone is stealing and robbing to be powerful, to take control, to take ownership over you, your property, your business, your people, your community, your heritage, your lineage, everything. So while we are all here, and where you are so desperately needed as well, Robert, while we are all here during this climate, and it's going to go on for a while, it's far from done. When you look at how America, and these are things that come up in conversation, especially online, when you look at the fact, and when I'm done, take the mic, you know, and if you want to, Robert, share, it's up to you. How the United States was formed by people coming here. People are all on the term terrorists. What about the terrorists, the indigenous founders of the United States that came here, raped women and children, murdered the indigenous people of this land, all for influence, leverage, control, power, and territory? What about the Africans? I'm not going to say African Americans, because they came here through force. The Africans, the black community that were raped, robbed, stolen, and forced into slavery. What is the real meaning for the Statue of Liberty? Because it's got nothing to do with the white people. It's got nothing to do with the United States. It has to do with the freedoms and reconciliations for the black community. The Statue of Liberty is originally a black woman. Why is she white? Why is she perceived to be white? Why is the original statue of the Statue of Liberty not easily found? You got to go on Google and research what the original Statue of Liberty looks like. Why isn't she in New York City? Why was Betty Boop, whose original black cartoon character, changed to white? Until the community, the masses, and the people collectively come together and stop shellacking and whitewashing and creating a Walt Disney fairy tale movie and sweeping shit underneath the carpet by their version of what pretty sophistication and society will be, the wars, the uprising, the terrorism, local, foreign, and domestic, will stop. Why is it that foreign countries have not given us as United States citizens foreign aid during times of the HIV outbreak? Why haven't the United States citizens received foreign aid for 9/11? Why haven't the United States citizens received foreign aid for COVID? Yet hundreds of millions and billions of dollars are going to other countries. And yet there are people across the world that are starving. There is major problems here in our country that are unresolved and disease. All because the United States, what is it looking for? What problem is it trying to really solve when our people in our country are hurt, are starving, are sick in every single way? So because of someone like Robert Grigore, this is why he's called, as with Danette Kabunda would say, the Celebrity Saviour. But he's here not just to help celebrities. He's here to help everyone. And I am a proud American, and I'm a proud American of what America should be and what it should represent. And that's inclusiveness. That's love. That's respect for all territory and its people. So let's not forget from all the little paintbrushes and sparkle and glitter exactly how something began. And until that behavior and problem is resolved, because if you look at our history books, it keeps popping up through every generation, here and there. Until the problem is solved, there will be no real resolve. And we will continue to need people like Robert in this world, because eventually the suffering has got to stop. Robert is not in this for money. He's not in this for self-gratification. He's doing this because, as he shared with you, there is a major problem that needs to be addressed. People are suffering. He went through it. He was very candid with you about what he went through, what his experience was like with substance and other things that had happened in his life. He's very, very transparent with that. And he was transparent and still transparent with me to this day. So with that, your voice matters. How you feel matters. Do things in a very kind way, in a non-violent way, because you're only going to feed the people that want to take control and power. You're only going to give them more. You're only going to prove their point of why there needs to be more laws, more restriction, more oppression, more suppression. It's not going to stop. Find a way to get the resolve. Your thoughts, Robert?
Everything that you said is amazing. When are you thinking about what you're pointing the finger at a problem that you see with the world and your country, and I'm going to say it this way, that until you know what the problem is, you can't really change it, right? Which is a theme in this whole conversation. And in order to really create the type of community that's required to be successful in any way, shape, or form, of merit, we need our brothers and sisters and whomever. We need our community, and in order to have that type of a dialogue that will create the community that we need, and that in any business, in any type of relationship, we need safety. We need to be able to develop trust and safety so that we can have the types of intimate conversations that we need in order to really have a true ally. And I think that's something that's been missing in our world in many ways. I'm not a historian, so I can't really comment on dates and everything, but we're talking about creating a safe container for relationships to blossom. And we need to be able to be authentic. And we need to have people on our side to do that, to help us to prosper in many ways. I know that you're doing this in your career in many ways, and authenticity is really, I think that's the dark night right now that's coming through to us. That I think is what's coming out of this pandemic, and as people are becoming more and more aware of themselves and their issues that they're facing inside. Authenticity is what is now selling. I have to say, that's what's popular, and I love it. That's why I'm really positive about where we're going as a human species. It's not just the people that have lots of followers or have lots of fans. It's our favorite, at least my favorite, are the stars that are authentic. They're open. They're sharing what's really going on for them, and I think that's what draws people into a lot of celebrities is when they share that they struggled with mental health, and there's a lot of mental health advocates in the celebrity world, like Lady Gaga, for example. She's created, she's very open with her anxiety, shared it all over the place. She's created a foundation to help kids with theirs. And Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, Kanye West, Justin Bieber, Russell Brand. There's tons of people out there. Oprah has been open with their struggles, and that's what creates the container for somebody to connect on a human level. Because going back to the beginning of our conversation, we're all human. We all want the same things. We want to feel safe. We want to feel that we matter. We want to know that we're worthy of love. And I think that's really what power is about at the core. It's not just to crush enemies or something like that. It's to keep safe. If you think back to caveman days, if you were able to overpower, and I know you can ensure your safety. So we all want to be able to survive. Now, I think that there's a new kind of power that's beginning to be spread, and that's the power of empathy. I think the power of being able to share space, to understand other people, to embrace other people, and love them for who they are, and that's something that's really important. But it's very difficult in a lot of spheres, especially high-profile spheres, where authenticity, there's so many different eyes on somebody that's being authentic. You think about in the celebrity world that putting the wrong tweet up could get somebody's reputation that could be questioned, or the fear of being blacklisted or rejected by the community. There's that fear of belonging right there. That we were talking when we were cave people, and we relied on our tribe to survive. And if somebody can't work anymore because they said the wrong thing, offended the wrong powerful person, and this is in any sphere of life, then that fear of safety comes into play. That fear of rejection comes into play, and so people that go through a process where they're no longer worried about what other people think of them, obviously, they're careful with their words, but there's no fear inside that they're going to, die, or they're going to be in danger if they say the wrong thing or they're themselves. So I have a very positive perspective. I believe that, we are moving in the direction of creating containers and spaces. And I think your platform does that as well, Stephen, where you're creating a space for somebody to speak freely, as I'm doing right now, and to help people become aware of the problem so that we can collectively come together and heal them as a global tribe. That's the goal, not an American or a Canadian or an African. We are a global species. We're a global tribe, and so we need global solutions. But we have to start small sometimes. We have to start with our immediate community, our relationships, and obviously it starts with yourself. So thank you for sharing what you did, Stephen, and I love it. I'm replaying this and listening again.
Thank you, and thank you for your valuable insight into that. And before I read one more review by a Hollywood actress, and her testimonial about working with Robert is, I encourage every country in this world to stop looking at the United States for your resolve and leadership. You have your country, you have your leaders, you have your people. Let us all be a reflection and positive influence for each other. You do not need the United States to bail you out of all your problems. You do not need the men and women of our military in your country to fight your battles. They're here to protect America. That's what we always hear. Our military troop protecting America means their ass belongs in America to protect. Protecting America. And I have family in military and law enforcement. I know exactly what it's done to them and how they've come home to us, okay? They don't need to be in your country. Let us all find a way to learn from each other. Let us all, if one's going to be financially supportive, let us all be financially supportive of each other. All countries support each other. When one country is not universally being supportive, well, then that should be your logical awareness exactly that there's always going to be a problem. So the question is how can we be, if it's saying unilateral or unified together, how can we do that? Probably is unrealistic of a request, but once again, our military, United States military troops is not doing anything for America. It's doing everything for the government, for power, intel, leverage, control, resources, and allies. We don't belong in other countries. It's not our fight. It's not our battle. Okay? You don't need to rely on United States tax-paying money to support your stuff when we all know that you look at the United States as a bunch of fucking idiots. And you know what? You're somewhat not wrong. Especially with everything that's happening. Yeah. But why take money from the United States when you think the United States are a bunch of fucking idiots and are lazy and slovenly and everything else, and you get angry when U.S. citizens come to your country, which I don't blame you, because there are times that we as U.S. people, we're so accustomed to go wherever we want, where we want, and to think that, life needs to stop for us. People need to change their ways the moment we walk in. Well, that's not reality. So I really hope with the changes that are happening in the world, figure out a way to help each other, because Americans need to focus those that are there in power and position to help the community and the government of America. There's a lot of problems here that need to get resolved. And you're not doing anything for us. You're not helping curve or to dissolve the wars and the separation and everything else when your nose is in everyone else's business because you're too worried about the United States being number one. Then the United States is not number one when we have people coming from foreign countries over here and basically taking a shit and doing whatever they want because you're worried about let's build being the most powerful and having the most money and everything else. They go back to their own countries and they do what they need to do. The United States is known as being Las Vegas. Come here, take a shit, do what you want, fuck around, do your fuck foolery, spend some cash, whatever like that, and then let everybody know, hey, we went to the United States. To tell foreigners who tell their people that they came to the United States is they're basically saying, and I have many, many friends in foreign countries, many, many good friends out there in Europe and Spain and Italy and France. To say that they came here to United States is to say I went to fucking Walt Disney World or Great Adventure. That's nothing to be proud of. So I'm passionate about that. It's a topic and something I feel that needs to be stayed on because, and I'm going to share this with you, Robert, I had spent years as a public relations representative and someone that helps with image, reputation, and all of that. You know, I was trained by corporate companies. I was trained through education and everything else. It's about preserving, but preserve to protect, not preserve to enlighten and to educate. And I'm now in a place to where I'm going to honestly say, and I've always been open and honest, but now I truly believe in my heart through the power of prayer and how God has touched me, how Spirit has touched me, is that I am not keeping my mouth shut because I'm worried about something. People know exactly who you're dealing with when you deal with Stephen Cuoco. There's never been a question or about that. The only thing of it is I've left working for corporate people and people that want to control and to disempower the masses. And with that being said, I value the younger generation. I am really proud of the millennials and Gen Z and emerging generations because they get it. They've learned from all of our generations of what works and what doesn't work. Stop bitching about them. They don't have a problem. If they have a problem, it's because of our generation, of the shit they had to deal with in a world that they're living in. And can you blame them? Because I don't. And here's something right here by a Hollywood actress. I was looking for the right therapist to work with. During my stay in Vancouver, I Googled EMDR therapist in the Vancouver area, and a lot of profiles came up. I chose to contact Robert, and his words on his profile resonated with me. He wrote about healing inner conflict and awakening one's potential. Boy, do we need that ever so more now, Robert. I had several very intense EMDR sessions with Robert while I was in Vancouver. He is very focused and doesn't lose sight of why I went to him. Before we started the work, he asked me about specific issues that I wanted to bring to awareness, and we focused on those. He has the ability to read in between the lines, pick up important elements that I myself may not have been aware of. I would recommend Robert very highly for his professionalism, his focus, and dedication, and the open-mindedness he brings to his work with his clients. Robert?
Oh, that's beautiful. Again, I'm always so humbled to hear, other people's words of gratitude for the process. I'm just as grateful for the opportunity to be able to help somebody to heal that inner conflict and to awaken their potential, because that really is what this is. One, I would say maybe the reason why we're here in many ways is to heal the conflict that's in our world, so that we can awaken the potential of our human species. Everything is a sort of a microcosm, a reflection of what's come before. And you're hearing about, the current generation and then our next generation that's seeing what's been going positively or negatively with the past generations. That's how we adapt, that's how we evolve, that's how we grow. And, you think about that as a reflection of the home environment, child growing up. You see your parents, their patterns of how their legacy of how they deal with life, and it's you either go along with the same legacy and you continue to perpetuate whatever that is. If it's positive, fantastic. If it's negative, well, now you're harming the world. So being able to recognize what's authentically helping the individual and in the world, but change has to start with the individual on the individual level, and then it can go into the national level. I'm really passionate about that because we have to know the direction that we truly want to lead in, and there has to be some sort of a unified perspective on that. Because if you're only doing it for yourself, if you're only succeeding, or you want to be the richest person on the planet and have zero friends, zero connections, zero assets in the relational realm, then you're going to be a very lonely and depressed individual, because we are a social species. So we need our allies, we need our community, and I feel really blessed and really honored to be part of this community with you here, Stephen, and to be blessed with the community to be part of with all those who seek my help.
Before we close, Robert, any final thoughts that you would like to give? A shout out?
Yeah, I would like to first of all thank you for the interview, and I think one of the things that I'm hoping for is that people will, even if you don't want to work with me directly, I want you to look into EMDR. EMDR is one of the most powerful methods of working through something, and it's finally some more celebrity awareness that's helping EMDR to be seen in the mainstream. You've got some incredible people out there like Jamila Jamil, for example, who went on an interview with Russell Brand, talked about her experience with EMDR. Rachel Wood, Maria Marino, Janelle B from the Spice Girls. God, I love her. I love her so much. Brie Larson, Brittany Cummings. The more people, the more people that can get behind this snowball with EMDR, the better, because that's going to change the way that you look at the world. It's going to change the way other people look at the world. And really, my best marketers for EMDR are my clients that have gone through the process. So imagine if more people can go through my process or a similar process. They're going to be able to shift the world. And there's organizations out there, the EMDR Humanitarian Assistance Program, which are going around the world helping after devastating traumatic natural disasters like the Oklahoma City bombing, 9/11, all kinds of hurricanes throughout the world, earthquakes, and this organization is a tremendous organization. The EMDR therapists that are kind of like Doctors Without Borders, or the EMDR therapists, and they'll go and they'll help survivors of rape and natural disasters and poverty. So EMDR needs to spread like a positive wildfire. We need people out there to look this up and to see if it's right for them. I don't know of anything that's faster to awakening oneself to their own potential to love themselves and love the world.
You're breaking up a little bit, Robert.
Oh, sorry. Oh, is that better?
A little bit. I'm getting some static.
A little bit better? Okay, well, I'm about to wrap up anyway. I think that EMDR being the that'll be a tool to help us build empathy on a world stage if we start with the individual. Exactly.
And where can everyone find you, Robert?
Easily at my website, thecelebritysavior.com, and on all social media, I'm the Celebrity Savior.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me live on air with Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5 and the Celebrity Savior, Robert Grigore. I really hope you get a lot from this interview. Share it with your friends and family. It will be uploaded onto Spotify and Apple and all of those podcast areas. This is not a podcast. It is a satellite radio show, but to help those that either don't have immediate access because they're working, they're busy, they're taking care of the kids, traveling. I put this there for you so you can catch up on all your favorite people, on all your favorite topics and shows to cover of what we are discussing in news, in media, in sports, here and around the world. So from the U.S. to the U.K., you are live on air with Stephen Cuoco on Power 98.5.
Friend us on your socials and let's connect.